Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The snaking discussion right now is hitting new levels with lots of pros last night maintaining their frustration at the state of the way a lot of the pros are currently playing the game. And even Shotzzy, known for mastering the movement, is very much frustrated with what he is currently seeing and hopes that snaking can go at some point or another. Can the pros GA it? Would the developers ever be able to figure out a way to resolve it in the game? Or are we stuck with looking at gameplay like this for the entire season? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thought it was pretty funny for methods, but you know, we talked some roster mania that was going on yesterday. Dave Paddy obviously coming in for Brack. Some big questions still there in my head, like okay, who's going to run the third SMG when necessary? What's going on there? There's also been some other questions like what's the next main AR change that's going to happen? Is it going to be Major Maniac getting gone and Brack comes back in? I don't know what they're planning to do. But Beans was of course getting involved in the Challenger stuff last night. Eventually they went down the Boston Academy to Fame & Co, the Rokkr Academy. These fools can never make me sweat to Fame. I thought was pretty entertaining as well in the replies. And also seemingly good news here for Kenny. I think he's getting hopefully a bit better and bit improved over the past few days. Not sure whether he's going to be well enough to play this weekend. That's unclear. I believe that Octane said a few days ago that it's certainly possible. Whether Cap still remains, I'm not sure. But obviously Cap did a great job last weekend, I thought. But yeah, Kenny is starting to tweet again and interact. Hopefully he's better and in good form to return this upcoming weekend, in a weekend that Thieves need him to perform really, because their decent seeding for the major is far from confirmed. But speaking of Capsidal, he actually said last night, I believe after his team got knocked out by Parasite's team in, I believe, the Challengers Elite last night, feel like I'm gross at this game and got nothing to show for it. Super depressing. So yeah, I don't know. I think Cap will have his chance at some point, right? It's a 2-year cycle, we believe, at the end of the day anyway. So, you know, I think Cap potentially making a return to a Pro League team at some point is not out of the realms of possibility. He looked great on Los Angeles Thieves. I'd be quite surprised actually if after Major 2 some teams didn't look at Cap, because we know that making trades between league teams is very challenging, but picking up a guy like Capsidal seems probably like a no-brainer to some teams. I think he would probably improve Vegas. I think he would arguably improve London as well. Like some of these teams that are struggling right now on the outside of potentially not making the World Championship, Cap has got to be a consideration for them. And I mean, look, he's never going to be replacing Kenny full-time or anything, but I think a starting spot for Cap is certainly on the cards. And if not, Vegas, or sorry, Los Angeles Thieves might just say, yeah, you know what, Cap, do you want to be our full-time sub because you did such a great job when it was necessary before. So I think things will work out for Cap. He's done great at the start of this season, and hopefully it can follow through for him. Now let's talk about the snaking drama then, right? So Bance comes out with this yesterday. If you're wanting to hurt your head, read this post. And this is the thing, right? It seems like the vast majority of pros are very much against the current snaking meta. We have seen Bance obviously say it here. We've seen Beans, you know, in the replies. We've also seen Methods and others have been very frustrated on stream and on broadcast the last several days about the way the game is currently played, the snaking. If you guys want a quick clip before we look at one in a few minutes time, this was actually Miles and Chance were just taking the mick out of them here, but look at this from the third person perspective, right? We've got you know, we've got Pro League, we've got TJ just snaking up and down and again and again and again, and I mean, what are you meant to do trying to break this? They actually do get broken here, which is kind of unfortunate for Las Vegas given they tried so hard with the snaking. But this is what we have to watch every single time at this point on the hotel. At this point, I mean, this has been a thing for years, but it's a game mechanic, but it's one that the pros seemingly are just going to use and abuse nowadays to their heart's content, right? And like the majority of pros don't like this and want it gone, but certain pros that still do it regardless are kind of forcing the entire scene to still use it, right? This is the frustrating part for many, is that probably if you ask the majority of pros what they wanted to do, they'd want snaking gone, but some pros that do it anyway mean that you kind of have to do it. You know, you can do it to phase up, this type of stuff. So the post in question went like this. So, you know, look, I respect everyone's right to their own opinion. I disagree respectfully with this opinion, but you know, this guy goes on to say snaking is good for competitive and you know, gonna get torn to shred. But here it goes. This is the thread, of course, that Bance is mentioning. Now, he did get torn to shreds in fairness, so it's not like the entire Reddit agrees with this opinion, but he believes some players are better at snaking than others. There is a skill gap involved, which is probably true, but very marginally, right? I don't personally think there's much of a skill gap in saying it. It doesn't take a genius to crouch and sprint and stand up again. Like, it's pretty easily done. Okay, there's maybe a minor skill gap, but I don't really think it's anything drastic. Snaking is needed to combat the fast time to kill. It's similar to shouldering, which I don't really think is true, because when you shoulder, if you do it badly, you can still get killed. Shouldering was a bit of a problem back in Black Ops 4 because you could immediately heal, but you know, if you shoulder and get shot at, then you can't really just peek out again. And also snaking, while you're doing it, you're pretty much invulnerable to being killed, and then you can just immediately stand up and shoot the guy. He also says watching a one-on-one snake off, especially Scrappy and S&D thinking Shotzzy versus Nero on aBeZy search, which I thought was painful to watch personally, but I guess he thought it was fun. So, I mean, look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm sure most would probably disagree with this. And then Mack comes in, didn't we get an asterisk on our S1 win because of snaking, full of soft kids nowadays? So I think he's just kind of saying that nowadays people are just, too soft on this snaking thing and it needs to go. Because back in Stage 1 Infinite Warfare, that was when snaking was arguably at its peak as it was now, and Splyce were the team that was taking advantage of that the most at the time. They would snake anything and everything, but every team kind of did it at the time because they hadn't decided as a pro community to not use it, to ban it. It got to the same point where someone started using it, and maybe Cellium doing some 8 at the time, playing some 8 at the time was one of the culprits, and then the pros started to do it, and then it kind of culminated in Stage 1 where everyone was doing it, and Splyce were the best of the teams at that time. Octane, of course, who was on LG at the time, who lost to Splyce in the finals there, dropped the sad face at the time, and this, of course, was the image of that team that won the event during Stage 1 back in Infinite Warfare now, 2017, several years ago it feels, with Mack at JoeD, of course, Bance and Zero on the team. But surely after this event was won, the pros decided, you know what, like, let's probably get rid of this snaking thing. And Splyce, I think even at Anaheim, which was the next event, they still made the finals, I think came second there, and even Epsilon came third, another European team, with LG winning. So they were still the best team even without the snaking, or they were still up there with the best teams without the snaking. But it was just way better to watch right at that point. The pros decided, you know what, let's get rid of this, stop with this BS, guys. Let's just agree between each other not to do this anymore, not to just abuse this movement mechanic like this. And of course, fundamentally, the ideal world would be that the developers can actually fix this issue, right? I mean, they should make it. In Counter-Strike, you can't really snake like this, because if you do it too many times, your character gets tired and you start going really slow, which is a great solution, right? But they similarly can't do that in COD. I think the sprinting element of this kind of cancels it out. So, I mean, you just get stuff like this again and again and again, and it's frustrating to watch, and it's frustrating to play for the players, and I don't think anyone really likes it, apart from a very small subset of individuals. So this is Shotzzy's opinion on it last night. He was watching this go on, which is, I mean, this is some of the most egregious stuff I've seen here on aBeZy. Okay, you can argue there's a skill gap here, but let's be honest. I mean, the guy's just going again and again, and what you better do to stop this guy? Because, okay, it looks, from his perspective, it doesn't look too bad from what the other person would see, but the cameras are so messed up that he's basically impossible to kill. It's been a thing for years, and I don't think it's going to go away. And the fact of the matter is that, like, he can do this again and again, and when he sees someone, then he can take some bullets at them and almost kill them. So, and then he just goes back to doing it again. So Shotzzy was watching this thinking, man, I can't watch too much more of this. It's time to go.
Well, you saw me right. Oh, never mind. That's just 2 minutes. No comms? No, I would rather watch this, dude. Like, bro, chat, you see what I'm saying, chat? Like, dude. This, like, bro, come on, dude. This is so, like, dude. Oh my god, dude.
So Shotzzy, the movement king, is not happy about stuff like this. We've got, of course, like, Cellium and Drazah are known as kind of the prime offenders in a way. Funny, really, because Sasha the other day was talking about the fact that, how is this tolerated? How is this snaking allowed? Back in his day, right, it wasn't really the case, well, back then. And, of course, he's currently teamed with Cell, who is a culprit, but apparently not so much as Drazah, who has been abusing this for a long time. And I think that Drazah's been, he's been like a big 8s demon, right? He plays a lot of 8s with the other pro players, and he's not afraid to, he doesn't care what people think, right? This guy, like, he's gonna snake if he wants to, but it does have that ripple effect on the league. And that's the issue, because back in Cold War, most of the teams agreed, let's not do this. Cellium would do it anyway, and when they played FaZe, they would just abuse it, right? But nowadays, it's got to the point where, because there's certain players on a couple of different teams that are abusing it, then the other team starts to do it, then, they keep using this habit, then it well, kind of trickles down. So yeah, bit of a disaster class, to be honest. Not sure what the actual solution is. Obviously, ideally, Infinity Ward fixed the problem of snaking. I think a couple of years ago, there was some attempt from one developer to actually resolve this issue, which didn't really work, but maybe did a little bit. It's not the case nowadays, and if Shotzzy's getting frustrated with it, then yeah, probably it's about time that the pros actually sit down in whatever chat they want to have, or just at Major 2 and just say, look, guys, like, let's just stop torturing ourselves like this, because it's not helping anyone, not least at the viewer experience either, at least in my opinion. Wanted to close out the video with a top 10 list of all time. So a few of us have been doing this over the last few days over at Breaking Point. Lyman's put in the cast together, and this is my top 10 list. I think looking back at this, I might swap around Slasher and aBeZy. I think maybe it makes sense to just have Simp and aBeZy, the terrors, next to each other with nobody in between, but I think this is a pretty damn good list. Obviously, it's my opinion, so I'm going to say that, but I think most people agree that this is at least solid. Obviously, everyone has their disagreements here. It's pretty difficult to come up with a top 10, but I'm going to go through and explain my reasoning. So, obviously, Scump, in terms of what he's done for the esport, is clearly #1 greatest of all time, but in terms of achievements, Crim's got the 3 rings, Crim's got the highest average placing ever, he's got the most finals, got the most tournaments, got the most world championship rings, like, got the most prize money. Crim is GOAT hands down in terms of pure accomplishments. Scump #2, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Some would put Karma even higher now, but I feel like just the extra win that Scump got during Vanguard and the extra win that Crim got during Vanguard just separates them a little bit from Karma, who retired a bit earlier in his career, despite having 3 rings, the only one to do that all on LAN. Then there's the Clayster versus Formal discussion. Some people swap these. I have them this way personally. Clayster was around and winning events before Formal even came to COD, and he was still around making finals when Formal wasn't any longer. And of course, people are going to say, you know what, Formal had the higher peak, right? Which I think is true during Infinite Warfare, but people forget how dominant of a player Clayster was at his peak. Advanced Warfare Clay was unbelievable, right up there with Formal as the best AR in the game. Clay was great in Ghost as well, and even Black Ops 2. So Clay had the peak, he had the longevity, he's won 18 tournaments, 3 World Championship rings as well. If you've won 3 World Championship rings and your name isn't Scump, you've got to be right up there, at least in my opinion. And yeah, Formal, I would just put him right behind. So to me, like, the top 5 is clear. You can change the order around, but the 5 best players are just, there's no brainer at this point in my opinion. So there's only really 5 spots you're fighting for here. I wanted to put aBeZy on this list. I couldn't quite find the ability to do so. You could maybe sneak aBeZy in there, but I think all these guys clear him, to be honest, in terms of their career so far. Arcitys isn't too far away, but to me, I don't think he's quite there. Even John would have been probably on this list if he was actually decent when he came back in Los Angeles, Thieves, and Vegas, or Paris, sorry, over the last couple of years. TP, I think, needs a mention as well, because he was on the Complexity Dynasty and won 17 events throughout his career, so there's plenty of players right on the cusp here, but these are my 6 through 10. JCap is #6 for me, and I think he's clearly top 7, and I would argue he's one of the more underrated players in COD history. People, like, continually disrespect JCap on these lists, or don't even put them on the top 10, which I think is absolute madness, to be honest. JCap has won 2 World Championships during the Jetpack era, and what's most impressive to me about Cap's career is that he did this not being on any of the dynasties, right? All the other players we saw, with maybe the exception of Clayster, but even Clay was at a time briefly on the Complexity Dynasty in Black Ops 2 before Karma then joined, but JCap was never on one of these dominant teams. He was on OpTic before they were good. He was on Denial, which was kind of a mishmash of players back in Advanced Warfare that won the World Championship. They just bought a Tatch in, for example. Then Envy, right? They had to go up against the OpTic Dynasty during the Black Ops 3 season, won 2 events there. Then Illuminosity Gaming, they did the same thing shortly after that as well. JCap was, I think, a key factor in getting the best out of his teammates. And also, people forget, right, that JCap, he made, what, 4 out of the first 5 World Championship Grand Finals. He was a regular feature right at the sharp end of Championship Sundays. Yes, he didn't win that many events, but he won 2 World Championships. And also, from an individual level, was an absolute dominant force back in Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 2. I think that's the thing that people forget about Cap, really, is that the longevity from his career is unbelievable. When he was the best player in the game during, like, the Black Ops 1 days, to then becoming, like, such a staple of teams that didn't maybe have the most unbelievable talent, but still got great results. And I do value longevity quite significantly on these lists, right? The fact that they were around for a long time. Same with aBeZy, right? That's the reason why I have aBeZy just about over Simp for now. I think that it won't take long for Simp to surpass aBeZy, but for now that I do say, you know what, Simp's only been to 4 World Championships, he's made all 4 Grand Finals, but aBeZy went to 7. That career longevity does matter. I don't think it'll be long, though, to be honest, before Simp and aBeZy both probably overtake these guys. Slasher, I might have just had him 10th or whatever. I think going into Vanguard, he was probably my 10th best player, and he might have dropped out now, but that victory last year he had on Los Angeles Guerrillas has to keep him in there for me. Like, obviously he won the World Championship, he's won plenty of events in his career, been a great individual player as well. So that to me is why Slasher is just slightly elevated here. But yeah, I wonder how long it'll take before Simp will surpass, you know, the likes of aBeZy and JCap as well. But I still think we're looking at least 2 more years before anyone can start to threaten the top 5 here, and it might take even longer than that. But very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.